Hi, hello, and so in today's video I will be re-attempting the jelly art style. So I made my first video about this, and hopefully there will only be two. But when I made it, I kept on making fun of the drawing because I didn't really like it all that much, and I'm not going to go over what I ranted about. I just wanted to redo it because I kept on looking at it and I was like, I hate this. I genuinely hate how this looks. And so I did it again. This time, instead of doing my Tav from Baldur's Gate 3, I did my D&D character, Stella. She's a living doll, and I thought, oh wow, with this art style and the proportions, she probably would do well, better than my Tav would in this art style. So I drew her. I had looked at many references on my phone, but the two I kept next to me to remind me of what the hell I was doing was the original reference I used, and the one above it, which I was just like, remember, this is the proportions you want so that it doesn't look funky. And I generally kept to that. And then for the actual rendering process, instead of just, I decided I would paint over like a black to keep it desaturated, because I find it very hard to work with desaturated colors. And then for the rendering, I tried to use, I try to keep the arms very 3D. So Stella, I guess I should talk about Stella. This will bring context. Like I said, she's like a living doll. She's a bard. She's a crackhead. She's absolutely insane, and I love her. But generally, so she has ball joints where her real joints are because she's not a thing. She's a doll. And so I tried to make sure to add lots of depth to that. And then to her face, I didn't do what I did last time where I added in that underpainting of like the capillary and all that fun stuff, because she's not alive. She's a painted face, so she wouldn't have that. And then for the rendering, I tried to add what I looked at when I was looking at like all the references on my phone and stuff. There's a lot of depth in the face, but not a lot of shading in the jelly art style. Most of the shading just goes onto the neck and maybe under the nose, but most of it is just rendering, which is different from actual shading. And so I tried to keep within that, trying to make sure I added a lot of depth to the face and to the eyes to make it look like they're actual like holes in your face. And for also another thing for the rendering placement, for the blush, I did 2 different or 3 or 4 different layers of blush, where I did I don't know what to call it. I think it's I saw it on TikTok once, and I think it's I know it's a Korean style of like blush paste placement where they do a little V next to the eyes and then you blend it out and it looks all cute. And I did that because I thought because it's a more anime style, and that sort of blush placement makes me think of an alien trying to replicate an anime sort of face in real life. I just repeated it. For the lips, I made them really big and then I just shrunk them down because I just don't think Stella would have like huge lips. She has more of like, not like a complete baby doll face, but she has a doll face. And I just think like most of her features would be really tiny, other than her eyes, which, again, because she's a doll, they'd be big, like staring into your soul. I also changed the colors around a little bit to make the skin look more like, I changed it to where it looked more like pinky than red, so that it looked more painted and looked more porcelain, which I think I did a pretty good job in making Stella look more porcelain-y. I also really like how the nose came out this time. It doesn't look as funky. I rendered the shit out of it, and I'm very happy with it. For the eyes were actually the part that gave me the most pain. It didn't take me that long to do. It was just figuring out how to replicate that sort of semi-realistic eyeball. Oh yeah, and then I wanted to mention, I went back to look at the reference, the one I used at the top. Turns out it was a bot, and I just was like, oh, okay, I'll steal this. It's right next to the other one. I did not know that, but now I do, and now I'm disappointed with myself. I just wanted the proportions so I could remember to keep the proportions correct. It was just a reminder of Do this proportion, Miwa. Do it. Do it. But for Stella's eyes, they were a pain because the way her eyes are is they're blue, but there's like a purple at the bottom, like a shading effect in a way. But making that look realistic was difficult because I kept on looking too cartoony, and then there wasn't the right colors, and then I just accepted it how it was. For the hair, I did it like I did in my last video about this, where I just rendered over the black with the original color, and I made sure to keep the strands in there so that they stayed more or less, they looked like hair strands. Again, looking at all the references I had, the hair isn't really shaded as much as it is rendered. I did add some shading to the hair and the clothes and stuff because it bothered me not having shading a little bit. And I guess, and this wasn't that difficult, and it didn't take me that long, and I think I talked about, I've already ranted about it, about this art style and the bullying it gets enough. I wanted to talk about how generally simple, don't shoot me please, don't kill me, but how generally simple this art style is, or this art, I guess all the techniques, because you could draw anything if you want in this art style. It's just like the subject matter, and then the framing, and then the lack of really shading, and then the fact that I know a lot of beginner artists just look at tutorials and they don't understand how they work. I didn't look at any tutorials when I did this. I just replicated it again, but since I already did it before, I knew what I was doing better, and I think I actually did a good job this time. But for somebody who doesn't understand how faces work and just replicating it over and over again, and it's like you're learning, but you're not learning like why really. And I also think that just rendering without shading, yeah, rendering's cool, but without shading, it's just kind of, at least to me, because I know how simple rendering can be sometimes. Oh yes, it's time consuming, but once you know how to do it, it's simple. And obviously there are things that are terrible and time consuming to render, but they're just time consuming. Like this hair took me 15 years, but I wouldn't say it was hard, it just took me a long time. It's just something I just realized, this art style is very cute, but I realized how not lazy, but easy easy it is. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I like knowing that. It's like I know why people don't like it that much is because it's easy. It's easy. A lot of people would see that as lazy, but again, as an artist, you can draw whatever you want. You can draw anything. It's easier than anything you want. You could draw a stick figure and say, "Oh yes, that's my finished piece for today," because it's yours. Ultimately you're the one who decides if something's finished or not. I could go back and say, "Oh, I didn't finish this," and just continue working on it, even though I consider it finished. Or some people only look at this and be like, "Oh no, it's not finished. You didn't do a background," or whatever. It's more about just, I guess, realizing how simple this was, especially because it was just me replicating what I saw. I just did this because, again, I hated my original drawing a lot. I'll show it here if I remember to show it, but I just really don't like how it looks, and I really prefer how this looks. I think it looks more accurate to the style, and I do not think Stella is coming out of the uncanny valley to slit my throat and steal my soul, like when I drew my tab in this art style. But yeah, for everything else, I just kind of, for the rendering, there's a way to, also, maybe I shouldn't say easy, because I figured out a way to like mock render by rendering over black. It makes anything you render, for some reason, at least for me, look a lot more rendered than it would normally. I don't know how exactly that works, but whenever I render over black, the colors just look like they're more painted and more rendery, and that's how I like copy a hyper rendered style without taking 15 years. This still took 10 years. No, it took me a day, actually. I shouldn't lie, but it felt like 10 years because of the repeated hair motions for the hair. But for everything, for the shirt, what I did to like, I colored it with the colors I used for Stella, but I just scribbled it in, and I added in where like the black should be still, like where the folds are. But as you can see, I just colored it and it looks rendered a little bit, and I just colored it in. Anybody who wants lazy render tip, there's one for you. So yeah, I did add some wrinkles because I'm not that lazy. But overall, this was like, other than like, the repeatedly coloring it in and the repeating hand motions of everything, this was pretty easy. There wasn't any dramatic pose. It was just time consuming, but I am happy with how it turned out, unlike the first time I did this, so I'm happy I was able to redo it and like, show the world that I redid it, and that, yes, I can actually do this without it looking creepy. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Every day we're getting closer and closer to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm so happy for it. I don't even know what I'd do for it. I don't even know how I'd celebrate that one, but I can't wait. But yeah, if you guys have any video ideas, please comment them below. I don't really have much to... I'm running out of ideas, I'm gonna be honest. And I say this in every one of my videos. That's part of the reason why I redid this, also because I did think the original one I did was ugly. Maybe not ugly, but I thought it didn't look... It looked like... it really looked really uncanny to me, and I had to fix it because I just didn't like that attempt at all. I felt like it was just not... It wasn't serving anything. It was serving the creepy human android robots that I don't even remember. They're like the ones that are supposed to look like people, and they have like silicone skin, and they're all weird, and... Anyway. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is, again, I'm just happy that this turned out. The artwork, it turned out not uncanny. I can put this to rest and say, yes, I can replicate this without it looking creepy. But if you guys have any video ideas, please comment them below. I have a Discord server. If you like this video, you should subscribe. If you want better notifications for my videos, around the day of, because I'm terrible at, because usually I'm not awake at 11:30 anymore on Saturday. But around that time I will post like a reminder of, hey, my video's up, for anyone who cares. I have everything, I guess every link you would ever want from me is down in the description. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.